Hello everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. First and foremost, I'd like to wish everybody out there a happy Memorial Day. I hope that you're all able to do the things that you like to do today, whether it be barbecuing, sitting in your pool, hanging out with your loved ones or your friends, whatever it may be. I hope that you're able to do that today. Me, I'll be spending my holiday at my parents' house. Not only is it Memorial Day, it is also my mom's birthday. So I'll be over at my parents' house tonight, hanging out with my parents, me, my girlfriend, some of my family, and we'll be celebrating not only Memorial Day, but the greatest mom in the world, my mom. So that is my plan today, and I hope that all of you are doing something similar with your time, because we've been cooped up for quite some time, folks, and it's about time that we start seeking a little bit of normalcy in our lives. All right, so as far as the article today, we have over 130 people who have come forward now claiming to be Jeffrey Epstein's offspring. Now, back in August, we saw something similar. When this website first kicked into gear, there was a bunch of people, dozens, who came forward with claims as well. So let's jump into this article at The Sun and see what The Sun has to say about Jeffrey Epstein and the so-called litter of 130 illegitimate children. Headline: Heirs to the pedo. 130 people, including dozens of Brits, claim to be Jeffrey Epstein's child in fight for his £470 million estate. And while it seems ludicrous on its face, right, it's also maddening. You have people coming out of the woodwork talking about their Jeffrey Epstein's children, trying to get their fingers in this pie when they know they don't deserve it. I have never heard anything about Jeffrey Epstein having one child, never mind a brood of 130. So these people, obviously, anytime there's a situation with an estate like this and there are questions around it, there are going to be grifters. There are going to be people that show up out of the woodwork with their hand out, acting like they deserve a little taste. Well, I have not seen any evidence that Jeffrey Epstein has sired any offspring. So until that evidence is provided, until we have DNA matches and the vetting process has occurred, etc., I'm going to look at this as all of these people being frauds. This article was authored by James Beale. Up to 130 people, including dozens of Brits, say they could be a love child of Jeffrey Epstein. They will inherit part of the pedophile's £470 million estate if proven. So there's the rub, right? If proven. Anyone can say anything. I could come onto this podcast and tell you that I'm the direct descendant of Jesus Christ. Right? Words are wind. Anyone can say whatever they want. But if you can't prove those sort of things with DNA, then you're certainly never going to get even 1 single cent from the estate. So all of these people that are coming forward, I hope they realize that they're going to have to back up their claims and their DNA is going to have to be a match. Some 386 informants have contacted EpsteinHeirs.com with 30% saying they might be his offspring. That is insane. But again, folks, right, you look at the people in the world, you look at even people, the way people conduct themselves on social media, Twitter and elsewhere, and you see that there are a lot of disturbed people. There are a lot of people out there that would love to insert themselves into a story like this with their hand out, hopefully thinking they're going to get a payday. But really, in reality, what it does is it just adds more nonsense around the case, right? And if there's the one thing that's not needed in this case is more nonsense. Epstein, who died in a New York jail cell in August, is said to have had sex 3 times a day for decades. He has no known children. Well, there's a few things that could be occurring there, right? Maybe Jeffrey Epstein was sterile. I don't know one way or the other. Obviously, I don't know the man. I don't know about his medical history, but perhaps he was sterile. Perhaps he had some sort of operation, got himself clipped so that he couldn't produce offspring. There's a lot of questions around that. Just because the guy had sex 3 times a day doesn't mean he was, siring a bunch of offspring like, some guy running around in a harem, right? I just don't believe that Jeffrey Epstein had a bunch of children. Sorry, it just doesn't jive with all of the stuff we know. A UK woman claims she met Epstein at a high-end London store in the 90s and became pregnant after a one-night stand. Another man said he was at a sex party with government officials and royalty, but did not have evidence to corroborate his story. Again, anyone can say whatever they want, right? You can make all the claims in the world, but if you don't have the backup for those claims, if you don't have the proof of those claims, then you need to let people know that, well, this is speculation. This is my opinion. And a lot of people forget to do that. And they get caught up with feeding their confirmation bias, or they get caught up with wanting to become part of the story, and they make up these wild claims. Prince Andrew has admitted being Epstein's pal for more than 10 years, but denies sleeping with women trafficked by the financier, pedophile. EpsteinHeirs.com was set up by U.S.-based Morse Genealogical Services, which has previously sought heirs to tragic rocker Prince. And this was set up in August of 2019 originally, and they were hit up with a bunch of people just blowing up their line, talking about how they're related to Epstein, how they should get some of the fortune, etc., etc. And what's really sad and what really needs to be kept into perspective is all of these people who are showing up with their hands out, all of these grifters that have nothing to do with it, are basically trying to steal money from the survivors. And while it's a ridiculous story and there's zero chance that it's true in my opinion, it's still one of those stories where I just shake my head. Because how could you be so callous? How could you be so tone deaf and have so little empathy for what these survivors went through to try and concoct a story that you're Jeffrey Epstein's child to try and get a little bit of this dough? I mean, these people are just, we live in a world full of really, really cracked people. Founder Harvey Morse told The Sun, Jeffrey Epstein was sexually promiscuous for so long that there is reasonable chance that he may have fathered a child. He could even be a grandfather. Well, yeah, and Santa Claus could be real. And, you know, we could go into all kinds of could-be's and would-be's, but can we remain here grounded on Earth with the facts? Because we don't have any proof that Jeffrey Epstein's a grandfather or that he fathered children, right? Now, don't get me wrong, all of these claims that come into this genealogical service, they should be looked at. Because, again, I could be completely off here and Jeffrey Epstein could have 35 kids nobody knows about, right? There is so much about this case that we do not know, that we don't have evidence one way or the other to prove these sort of things, that anything is possible at this point, folks. I have not ruled anything out that can't be proved one way or the other. And do I think that Jeffrey Epstein has a bunch of children? No. Is it possible? I guess anything is possible in this case at this point. Mr. Moore said that investigators have also received information from the U.S., Caribbean, and France. If a solid lead is established, Mr. Morse would petition a U.S. court for a DNA test to confirm the claim. Okay, so there's obviously a stringent process that they use for this company to vet these people, because you have to go to the court, and the court isn't going to just accept some BS, right? There has to be proof, etc., etc. So no wonder we haven't seen any of these claims brought forward in court yet, right? Because they're all BS. The individual may also have to give testimony. Mr. Morse added, about a quarter of the calls have required investigation, but so far we have not felt confident to take any further. Having said that, you never know who is going to call each day. Well, yeah, especially with a story like this coming out, every Yahoo under the sun is going to come out of the woodwork talking about how they're Jeffrey Epstein's kid. And you know it's going to happen. There are people that are disturbed, folks, right? There are people that sit around, they have nothing better to do with their time, and they get involved in hoaxes like this and trying to be wise guys and funny. And meanwhile, there's nothing funny about any of this shit. The fact that people are coming forward and trying to take money out of people like Virginia and Courtney and Maria and Annie's pocket is mind-boggling to me, and it's so gross on its face. As well as the allegations surrounding Prince Andrew and Epstein, Steve Scully also claims to have seen former U.S. President Bill Clinton on the island. And again, I do not dispute the fact that Bill Clinton was on the island. There's a lot of evidence that points in that direction. Now, what I will say is this, though, like I said last night on the podcast, just because he was on the island does not mean I'm going to make the leap and say he was involved in abusing girls on the island. Until we have witness statements that come forward, until a survivor comes forward and says, yes, this happened to me, well, I'm not going to believe all of the background noise. Because when it comes to people like Clinton and Trump and any of these high-profile people, there are, I would say, a majority of people feed their confirmation bias with both sides of the aisle looking to score political points. And I'm not interested in doing that one way or the other here on the podcast. I really don't care about politics anymore at this point. Coming into this story, I surely cared about politics, there's no doubt. But I see a bigger picture here, and I don't want to be just another one of these tribalistic voices in the wind, right? I don't want to just be one of these people on social media arguing about politics, your side good, my side bad, ho ha ha. It's pointless, it's worthless, and it doesn't move the conversation forward. I would much rather spend my time exposing corruption by these same politicians that everybody's out carrying water for. Because my days of playing sides when it comes to politics are long over, folks. Long over. I have no desire to be on anyone's team. I have no desire to carry water for anybody. I'm just over it. I see the damage it has caused, and not only in general, but even in cases such as this. You see everything get broken down amongst political lines, and then you see people become entrenched on one side of the other, trying to defend their quote-unquote guy. When in reality, everybody who's been involved with Epstein, Trump, Clinton, all of them need to be looked at with a microscopic eye. And everybody who was involved in enabling Jeffrey Epstein, they need to be called out for their behavior. But what we can't do is throw around accusations such as, oh, Bill Clinton was on the island raping people 56 times. That's ridiculous. That's disinformation. And that's just the kind of thing these people love to latch onto to discredit the whole entire investigation. So the idea is to not give them any inroads. The idea is to stay in reality. Remember, it is not what we know, folks. It's what we can prove, right? So that's what I try to do here on the podcast. We only talk about the things where we have evidence for. Believe me, I have things that come across my desk that even if I might think there's a shred of truth within them, I can't run with it because there's no factual evidence to back it up, and it's all speculation. Now, there's a place for that, right? I am not saying people should not speculate. What I am saying, though, is when you're researching this story and you have an outlet, you have a podcast, or you write articles for a newspaper, et cetera, you have to be careful with the way you go about things, right? You don't want to just start throwing around accusations that don't stick or are ridiculous, because then you look like you're looking for nothing but a hatchet job. For me, I don't care about any of it. I don't care about any of it. If Trump was let out of the White House tomorrow in a pair of handcuffs, then that would be that. I don't care what one way or the other about any of these politicians. None of them care about me. Have any of these politicians shown up at my house and asked me how I was doing during this pandemic when they shut down the government? Hell no. Like Sonny says in A Bronx Tale, Mickey Mantle don't care about you. Mickey Mantle ain't ever going to pay your rent. And it's true. None of these people that you carry water for, or you run around and you get into arguments with the people you love and the people you care about over, none of these people care about you, folks. They don't have your best interest at heart. All right? These are all the same people that were involved in this Jeffrey Epstein cover-up and this Jeffrey Epstein criminal conspiracy for decades. All of them. Comey, Trump, Trump's people, Clinton's people, Obama's people, Bush's people. You see, it's not a left and right thing. It's not about politics. It's about power. And all these people care about is the consolidation of it. It's time to wake up, folks. It is time to wake up and take stock in who we are as a people and what we want for our society moving forward. Because we can waste time yelling and arguing with each other on the internet, talking about Trump this or Clinton that or Joe Biden this. But at the end of the day, that is exactly what they want. They want you so busy arguing amongst yourselves that you're not paying attention to the massive robbery that's occurring of our wealth. And not only that, they don't want you paying attention to all of these kind of black operations that are being run right under our nose brazenly. That is their goal. That is their motivation. And that is why they keep you fighting with one another. If you'd like to contact me, you could do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, everybody, I will be back later on tonight with the Daily Drop.